Are you ready to survive the next dark age? Imagine this. The mushroom clouds have bloomed, the bombs have dropped, and society has crumbled. It's a dog-eat-dog world out there, and the only thing standing between you and a swift, painful end is the right protection. That's right, we're talking about armor. Specifically, medieval armor. Because when the world ends and we're back to fighting over scraps of food and rusty tools, you better believe that knowing how to defend yourself the old-fashioned way is going to be a lifesaver. So buckle up, Buttercup, because in this video, we're diving deep into the nitty-gritty of the top 5 medieval armors that could save your bacon in a nuclear apocalypse. Stay tuned as we dive into the top 5 medieval armors that could save your life. First up, we've got the classic chainmail. You know the one? That iconic mesh of interlocking metal rings that's graced countless fantasy movies and historical reenactments. Now picture this. You're scrambling through the ruins of a bombed-out city, dodging radioactive rats and desperate scavengers. You need armor that's going to move with you, something that won't weigh you down like a sack of potatoes. That's where chainmail shines. This baby is surprisingly flexible, allowing for a decent range of motion so you can duck, dodge, and weave your way out of danger. Plus, it's relatively simple to make. I mean, we're talking post-apocalypse here, so you probably won't have access to Amazon Prime. But fear not, my friend, because chainmail can be crafted with basic tools and scavenged metal rings. Just grab yourself a pair of pliers, some wire cutters, and enough patience to make a saint weep, and boom, you've got yourself some sweet, sweet chainmail. But hold your horses, my dude, because chainmail does have its weaknesses. Remember those desperate scavengers I mentioned earlier? Yeah, well, let's just say if they've got a club, a mace, or even a really heavy rock, that chainmail isn't going to do much to protect you from a bone-crushing blow. Think of it like this. Chainmail is like the defensive equivalent of a mosquito net. It'll keep the little annoyances at bay, but against the big, blunt threats, you're going to want something a little more substantial. So, while chainmail might seem like the perfect blend of flexibility and DIY friendliness, keep in mind that it's not going to stop a direct hit from a blunt object. Next up, we're talking about the big daddy of medieval armor, plate armor. This, my friends, is the Rolls-Royce, the Cadillac, the 5-star gourmet meal of protection. When it comes to sheer stopping power, plate armor reigns supreme. Imagine this. A rival band of survivors wants your sweet, sweet stash of canned peaches. They come at you with swords drawn, arrows raining down like confetti at a parade. But you, my friend, are encased in gleaming plate armor, an impenetrable fortress of steel. Those swords, they bounce harmlessly off your breastplate. Those arrows, they ping off your helmet like raindrops. You're basically the Terminator, only less robotic and more medieval. But let's be real for a second, because every rose has its thorns and every suit of plate armor has its drawbacks. First off, this bad boy is heavy. We're talking about wearing the equivalent of a small child on your body all day long. Try sprinting away from a horde of radioactive zombies when you're lugging around that much weight. And speaking of mobility, let's just say that plate armor isn't exactly known for its flexibility. You'll be about as agile as a turtle in molasses, so forget about pulling off any fancy ninja moves. Plus, crafting plate armor, that's not exactly something you whip up in your backyard forge. We're talking about a level of craftsmanship that would make even the most skilled blacksmith break a sweat. So while plate armor might make you feel like an invincible knight, it's important to weigh the pros and cons. If you're looking for maximum protection and don't mind sacrificing speed and agility, then plate armor might be your jam. But if you value mobility and practicality, well, you might want to consider some other options. Now, let's talk about something a little more accessible. Let's talk about leather armor. It's the underdog, the scrappy younger sibling, the duct tape of the armor world. Look, I get it. Not everyone has the time, resources, or sheer willpower to craft themselves a suit of metal armor. That's where leather comes in, my friend. It's readily available, relatively easy to work with, and can provide a surprising amount of protection. Think about it. In a post-apocalyptic wasteland, what's going to be more common than a stray cowhide? Leather might not have the stopping power of metal, but it can still deflect glancing blows, cushion impacts, and even offer some resistance against heat and fire. Plus it's lightweight and flexible, allowing for a full range of motion. You'll be able to outrun those radioactive wolves, climb over rubble and even swim across rivers without feeling like you're drowning in your own armor. Of course, leather armor isn't perfect. It's not going to stop a direct hit from a sword or an arrow, and it's definitely not going to hold up against a bullet. But as a lightweight, versatile and easily crafted option for basic protection, leather armor is a solid contender in the post-apocalyptic fashion show. So if you're looking for a good balance between protection, mobility and ease of crafting, leather armor might just be your new best friend. Just maybe try not to think about where that leather came from. It's a slippery slope from wearing a cowhide vest to fashioning a full-on Mad Max outfit out of scavenged roadkill. And trust me, nobody wants to see that. Now it's time to talk about an often overlooked but totally badass type of armor, scale armor. This, my friends, is the hidden gem, the underdog, the comeback kid of the armor world. Imagine this. You're facing down a horde of mutated insects, their clicking mandibles and razor-sharp legs hungry for your flesh. You need armor that's tough, flexible and won't weigh you down like a lead apron. Enter scale armor, stage left. This bad boy is made up of hundreds, sometimes even thousands of small metal plates, all wired or sewn together like a reptilian second skin. It's like Chainmail's cooler, more stylish cousin who lifts weights and knows how to throw a punch. Scale armor offers surprisingly good protection against both piercing and slashing attacks. And it's also surprisingly flexible, allowing for a decent range of motion. Plus, crafting scale armor is more manageable than you might think. You can use scavenged metal scraps, old cans, even bottle caps if you're feeling resourceful. Just cut them into small plates, punch some holes, and get to wiring or sewing. It's like a giant post-apocalyptic arts and crafts project. So, if you're looking for a unique, effective, and surprisingly DIY-friendly type of armor, scale armor deserves a spot on your post-apocalyptic shopping list. And last but not least, we have the unsung hero of the armor world, the gambeson. This bad boy is often overlooked, dismissed as nothing more than a padded undershirt. But let me tell you, my friends, the gambeson is a force to be reckoned with. Imagine this. You're in the middle of a barter gone wrong, tensions are high, voices are raised, and suddenly someone pulls a rusty shiv. You brace for impact, but instead of searing pain, you feel a dull thud. You look down and see that your trusty gambeson has absorbed the blow. The blade stopped dead in its tracks. That's right, my friends, the gambeson is the king of shock absorption. It's like wearing a mattress that can stop a knife. This bad boy is made up of layers upon layers of quilted fabric, often linen or wool, providing surprisingly effective protection against slashing and blunt force trauma. Plus, it's incredibly easy to make. Just gather up all those old clothes, blankets and curtains you've got lying around, layer them up nice and thick and stitch them together. Boom! You've got yourself a gambeson that would make your grandma proud. Now let's be real. A gambeson isn't going to stop a bullet or a direct hit from a sword. But for everyday protection against the scrapes, bruises and occasional knife fight, the gambeson is a comfortable, practical and surprisingly effective choice. So, don't underestimate the power of a well-made gambeson, my friends. It might just save your life one day. And hey, even if it doesn't, at least you'll be the most comfortably dressed survivor in the wasteland. From the flexible embrace of chainmail to the sturdy protection of plate armor, the lightweight defense of leather, the surprising resilience of scale, and the shock-absorbing power of the gambeson, we've covered a lot of ground today. Remember, in a world gone mad, being prepared for anything is the key to survival. Whether you're facing down raiders, mutated creatures, or just the harsh realities of a post-apocalyptic world, having the right protection can make all the difference. So there you have it. Your crash course in post-apocalyptic armor is complete. Remember to subscribe for more survival tips. Stay safe and be ready to armor up.